Welcome back to Twisted Metal Customs, episode 7 of the XW Rusta Resto series. And on this episode, I'm going to try to get all these floor pans in without too much trouble and show you some tips and tricks on the way. Tune in, let's get it. Alright, so as you've just heard, we've got some floor pans here from Rare Spares. We're going to see if we can get one in and finished for this episode and see what things we come across and tips and tricks I can share along the way. But I don't know which one I'm going to start on yet. Maybe this one because it has better light. First things first, we're going to get it nice in place, see where we're going to cut out. So I might just mark out where the rust is. I'm only going to use as much of this as I need to. I'm not going to use the whole piece because it's going to be harder to try to make it fit the more I use of this piece, because it's just a stamped piece, right? So it's not going to be perfect. So I'm going to mark out the rust underneath and then transfer that line onto the top and get a rough cutout shape. Alrighty, so you can see the rust here straight through. Got some pinholes along here. I had a look underneath. Basically the section I need to cut out here looks like a pretty good spot to weld, so I'm going to cut. There's an under brace there which actually I do need to replace as well, but I'm going to cut along here. And then maybe I might start by cutting around there because I don't know where I'm going to join it yet. And then on this side here, looks like some spot welds along here. So that's the next. Oh, that's another plate. So I think I'll have to go over the top of that plate. So I'm going to take off about an inch past that plate so I can join it over the top of it. A flat section, make it easier to grind. Something like that. So that's what I'm going to cut out. This has actually got a different spot. That one's round. Yeah, so much of a muchness. It's just a square compared to a round. But I'm not really happy with this join. They've just cut it, tacked it on top. So I might cut that out and weld it up. But I'll get it in place first and then we'll see how we go. And just remember that these aren't like a perfect fit replacement piece, and I don't think any of the companies, unless you get full OEM, original panels, that they are going to be, distorted a little bit and a bit of massaging required to install them properly. So remember that. So that's the reason why I'm only cutting out what I need to do, not put the whole lot in. Alrighty, so that has been cut out now, which is fantastic. It's there. And these are some of the tools I used. I'm better off just explaining after rather than stopping every 2 seconds to explain. Air chisel, I use that for popping up the spot welds. So I use this little cut-off wheel on this little die grinder to grind down the top of the spot weld, just so it's thin and weak. And then I go along with this air chisel and go between the two seams or wherever it's spot welded and just pops the welds off perfectly. And this is a little saber saw or recip saw with a metal blade on it, just to do the corners and little finicky bits. All very good tools to have. And then the generic 5-inch grinder with the cut-off wheel did bulk of the work. And that's my Freddie Flintstone style opening. And what I'm going to do here is go through and treat all this rust that's on that plate. That's that thick plate that I'm going to spot weld back to on that section. I'm going to try to treat under there as well. I'm going to use that Furtan rust converter that I showed you on a couple of other videos. Here's some. This stuff, it's awesome. It's really good. So I'm going to clean all that up with the wire wheel, spray under there with Furtan, kills what I can because I can't get to it otherwise. and use my roll lock with my Amazon special 36 grit. It's bloody windy today. There's an annoying rattle on this panel. It is so frustrating. Every time I start to record, it starts bloody vibrating. Righto, so back to it. Roll lock, Amazon SanDisk, clean all that up, and yeah, I'll get back to you when I've treated it. I'm going to also grind back about 1/2 inch around that opening, just so I have a nice clean surface to weld and do all my stuff to. And when I get to that point, I'll tell you what the next step is, but basically I'm just going to trace that out and then cut that out, but a little bit wider, so I can tack it up underneath and then cut through. I'll explain shortly, so don't go anywhere. Actually, you won't have to go anywhere, because when I click my fingers, it will be the next scene. Alrighty, so we're back on the XW. We've had a few days away, but I did actually record about 5 minutes of me ranting, carrying on about this panel. But I had a realization is that yes, they're only just a patch piece for the aid of restorations, not like an OEM piece, and that's why you only paying a couple $100 for the pedal. But this one here actually was a fair bit out, and I've done a fair bit of hammer and dollying to get it to where it is now. So you can see that I've cut out what I don't need around the panel, that I don't need off. You know, it's a fair big chunk that I've taken off. The width wise, that's what's the worst, is that I've got a bit of a gap up here, but I'm gonna have to fill that in after. But everything else I've sort of hammered and dollied in to suit my floor pan. I'll put a relief cut along here because that was like way out. And also a relief cut there, cut that stitch weld there, and hammered this whole side laid over a bit because it was way out. I had about an inch gap from the width, but it's still usable. And what I'm going to do is, I don't know what I'd call it, but a stitch in fit technique is I'm going to get this back section here. It's pretty well ready for stitching in, a little bit of adjustment. I'm going to stitch that along the back first, lock that into place, and just work my way along the edges where I can, and then hammer and dolly and cut out what sections I don't need with my hammer, to then shape this around the rest of the part. So here it needs to be bent downwards, this section needs to be tightened up and then bent downwards. So depending how you want to do it, but there'll be pretty much always going to be hammer and dollying when you get one of these pieces, whether it's a little bit or a lot of bit. This one's a lot of bit. So we're going to keep going with this, and I'm going to start stitching in the back and then working forwards while it's stitched in the actual in position. And then I'm going to hammer and dolly, and any more relief cuts needed, I can do it as I work through that panel. It just seems to be easier for me that way because it's fixed. And then when you hammer and dolly it, actually, it's really windy, and every time I talk, a vibration happens. So, and we just, so anyway, I'm going to work on the back, work through, because once it's fixed, I can work in front of the weld, and because it's fixed, it's easier to manipulate the steel with the hammer and dolly rather than bring it in and out all the time. So that's what we're doing. I'll give you an update in a couple of minutes. All right, what I'm going to do here is just talk over this hyperlapse. I'm going to try something different to what I normally do instead of music. It's a lot easier to explain what I'm doing this way, I guess. What I did there is just grab the roll lock and clean the surfaces as I spoke about earlier, and then I'm just tacking in place that back section. And it's pretty important to make sure that those two surfaces are exactly level and uniform before you tack it. Once it's tacked in place, around that tack, it's a lot easier to manipulate the steel with the hammer. And that's what I was trying to say before, is you don't have to use a dolly even, you can just sort of hammer along, use a screwdriver, and you know, get the two surfaces, the two edges perfectly aligned. I'm tacking around an inch apart at this point, and I'm not worried too much about warpage because it's right on a corner and it's going to be pretty hard. But do note that when you do weld, between your welds, the metal, one of the metal surfaces will either raise or like lower a bit. So that's why I'm always hammering between, you know, if you just go along and stitch it all one go, you're going to have a badly warped panel. I just cut in a relief section there because I need to hammer in that lip down further, and that material has to go in the middle. And now what I'm doing is just going to drill out the spot welds for that brace for under that passenger seat, because it's munted, so it needs to be replaced. So pilot drill, small drill bits, then went through and drilled with bigger drill bits, and it will just chisel off with the air hammer underneath. Alright, now I'm pretty happy with the final finish at this point to start welding in this front section. So I've just marked it out, and I'm going to cut on a 45 degree. You can't see past my big buff head, but yeah, 45 degrees with the angle grinder cutting wheel, and then I'm using the little saber saw just to do the curved sections. You'll see the section here that I have to hammer in the bottom of the panel to stretch it lower to be able to make that little corner section fit. If I cut that and just bend it down, then it's going to be a bit misshapen. So and now I'm just going along the outside where that spot welds will be against this part of the original car, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to clamp it in. And I did get a G clamp on one section, but I ended up just using the hammer and just pushing it, you know, a fair bit of force on it when I stitched it. And then once I stitch it, hammer all the way around it, keep bringing that steel back close to the panel. Well, let me know if this voiceover hyperlapse works for you. Sorry, I'm pretty awkward when I'm trying to watch myself and talk about it, but hopefully I've got some tips and stuff across. So, just interrupting real quick, don't forget TMC has a private membership now on YouTube, so you can find that on the homepage, or there's a link below to become a member. Go check out those perks, because basically it's a community where, a private community where anybody can ask a question anytime throughout the day, and I'll jump on there and respond, or whether it's a question throughout your restoration process. Anything, and plus we jump on there and share our progress, and sort of keeps each other motivated to do our builds. That's going to also have some tutorial videos uploaded, you know, bi-monthly, so 2 monthly hopefully, and eventually, first time I've announced it, but I want to start doing one-on-one or one-on with a group, like me with a group of people doing a beginner restoration course. That's going to be later on in the year, but if that's something that can interest you, then also go check it out. Otherwise, continue watching. Well, I'm not sure how much voiceover I did for that time lapse, but if I didn't do it, this is what you've got. This side here had a big 45 degree angle. I'm not sure if I showed that or the battery was charging on the camera, but I used my air chisel with my man-made shaper. I've just got a bit of steel and welded it on there and just shaped it so it's a bit of a, as you can see, like that shape. And from there I just put it against here with the dolly on the back and just sort of shape that whole inner angle, and just really takes so much effort out just by using this, just to like massage it where it needs to go. Like I had a really bad 45 degree inner, where along there it's a nice sharp 45 degree. So that's, yeah, pretty much along there. So now it's welded. I could probably go in a bit further with a sharper dolly and then yeah, sharpen that up a bit, but I'm pretty happy with so far. So what's left now is just going through and just welding up the rest of this all the way along the front. I have to get a little strip in there, fill that up, massage the floor. This sort of needs to go down a tiny little bit here, but it's pretty good. And just fill in the gaps basically. I've taken off, this was the passenger seat floor support, what's left of it. That's what it was. I didn't even really hit it off. It just, that's how much damage was on it. So I've got to take those little spacer things off and weld it onto the new one. for the seat bolts. But yeah, that one was pretty haggard, so I had ordered 2 of them already, so it's lucky that I did that. You can see underneath there, and don't worry, this whole bottom's going to be wire wheeled and coated and all that, but I'm waiting until the end for this. One thing I'd say with that, drilling out your floor or the piece that you're replacing for that bracket, so to speak, what you got to do is think ahead in your head and see which piece you can have the holes through. So for example, if my replacement piece already had spot holes in it, obviously I wouldn't want to drill through the floor because then I'm going to have holes I need to fill up. For this one, my replacement piece doesn't have spot holes already drilled into it. So there I can just pretty much use these and then plug straight through against that other piece. So for me, that's fine, but yours might be different. So just make sure you have a think about what piece you want to drill through. If I wanted to keep that hole, I would have had to go up underneath and drill through that piece without going through all the way. But for me, luckily, I can just spot weld through the top. That's the fucking shed. Alrighty, guys and girls, I'm going to get stuck into welding all this up. So it's going to take me a couple of hours, probably 3 to 6 hours or something to get all this finished up. If I get it done before I have to go back to work, I'll upload this video with the final reveal. But if I don't, it'll just be on the start of the next episode, which will be the front left and front right one. I'll have more time to get both of them done, and yeah, bit more thorough on the tips and tricks on how to get it all in there. But this one was a good lesson learned because it was way out of shape, so it was good. Don't forget, we've got merch link below and Amazon link. So if you're gonna get some tools or equipment to top up your supplies, consider going through that link because it helps out TMC a lot, just a couple of bucks here and there. I can put it towards more, gear, equipment, or even camera stuff. Every dollar counts at this point. So that would be awesome if you could support me through that way. Otherwise, if you watched this far and you haven't subscribed, just subscribe because you're obviously interested enough to learn or see what I'm doing. Whether you hate it or love it, you can always unsubscribe later if it's annoying you. That's all sweet. But the road to 10k subs, it's going to be a long and bumpy one for me. So please be a part of that and help me grow my channel so I can do more of this stuff. I can spend more time doing videos and hopefully get better at it. Thanks for watching. Go work on your car. Go buy some stuff through Amazon. Appreciate you watching this far. You're a legend. See you later.